CFL Combine one-on-one with Montreal Alouettes General Manager Danny Maciocia. You land Cody Fajardo in free agency. Trevor Harris goes to Saskatchewan. When you look at that overall picture, salary included, because I think it's about $75,000 less if Fajardo hits all his playtime incentives, are the Alouettes actually potentially better off with Fajardo as the starter?
Well, I don't know if we're better off. I think they're two quality quarterbacks that are going to two organizations and that are definitely going to benefit from the talent or whatever they're able to provide at that position as far as talent is concerned. Obviously, Trevor's as accurate as you're going to come across. I put him in the same category as a Ricky Ray, and he's got an abundance of experience, and I'm quite sure he'll do well for himself in Saskatchewan. In our case, we get a younger quarterback. We get a tough quarterback that obviously when gets, the opportunity presents itself that he gets, when he gets outside the pocket, he can make things happen with his feet. So we think he's tough. We think he's accurate. We think he's a competitor. We think he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder, having experienced what he experienced last year. And I think it's just a win-win for both organizations.
Could there have been a big blockbuster trade there? Like that really would have stolen the headlines.
That would have been the case, but unfortunately it didn't come about that way. It's through different types of circumstances that we find ourselves with Cody, and they get themselves Trevor. But I think both organizations should be quite pleased with the two players.
Jason Maas said that he didn't push Cody Fajardo on you. He let you do your own evaluation, and you came to that on your own. What really stood out to you about Fajardo on film?
So I went back and watched 3 years worth of film. I went back when he was 13-5. Then obviously we had the pandemic year. Then the following year he was 9-5, and then last year we all know what kind of season Saskatchewan had. So I watched every single throw. And I've had the good fortune of working with some pretty good quarterbacks, whether it was Ricky Ray, whether it was Jason Maas or Anthony Cavillo. I've always been a fan of Cody, just because there's so many different ways he can beat you. And he's won a lot of games inside of 2 or 3 minutes. He's probably an upright away from going to the Grey Cup game. And he's all of 30 years old. So I felt there's still a lot of good football left in Cody Fajardo, and I knew there was a relationship already established. And there's something to say about people that go through some form of adversity, the way they handle it. And there were times last year where he could have just, said, "Hey, enough's enough." He had the issue that he had with his knee, and he could have sat out multiple games had he chosen to do so. And yet he just kept coming back and kept playing and doing his best, and that speaks volumes to me. So the fact that he went through it, the way he handled it, all the adversity, I just think that makes him stronger. And I think we're going to get a quarterback that's battle-tested, that knows how to win at the CFL level, that has a relationship with Jason Maas, that understands what kind of system that we're going to run. And I think that's going to be very beneficial to us.
Another player that's out there right now that has a relationship with Jason Maas is Brandon Zylstra, a free agent on both sides of the border. Could that be a possibility if he came to Canada, that he would end up with the Alouettes?
It's a possibility, but I would think he's the type of guy that's going to exhaust every possibility, every opportunity, every avenue before he considers coming back up to Canada. But he's a quality football player. He's played for Jason. He's had, I think, back in 16 or 17, I think he had 100 catches for 15 or 1,600 yards. So we know he's a quality receiver. We know that he's played in the system. So. He would be a value add for anybody that can get their hands on him. But I think he's probably going to exhaust every single avenue before he considers the CFL.
If the CFL became a possibility for him, Jason Maas was saying there's going to be a lot of suitors. Would the Alouettes have the salary cap room to be able to sign him?
I think there'd be an opportunity for us to take a run at him. But there's a lot of things that can change between now and then, and I'm sure that if that ever comes to fruition, it'll probably be closer to training camp than probably in the next couple of weeks, I would say.
You have a new owner of the team, Pierre, Karl, Péladeau. What are your initial impressions of him? Because I believe you just met with him for the first time?
Yeah, so we met last Friday. Very energetic, very dynamic, extremely smart. Very passionate, understands the history of the Montreal Alouettes, He was able to give me some names of players that he watched play in the 70s. I know he's a big fan of Sonny Wade. So we talked about Sonny Wade, the quarterback, for a period of time when we did meet. He loves sports. He owns a couple of junior hockey teams in the province of Quebec, and he's a proud individual. So I would say the conversation was pretty. He was very engaging. He created an atmosphere that was comfortable. So we had some positive exchanges, and I'm looking forward to working with him.
What's it like being the GM, going through an ownership change and having to, I guess, answer to someone different?
Answer to someone different, being the new owner?
Yeah.
Well, it's not something that you're going to go through every single year or every other year. You hope that's not going to be the case. It's definitely something different than what we experienced this year. It was a fairly difficult period for us when we went through the transfer. Having said that, we've got an organization now that's extremely motivated. That's got a little bit of a spring in our step, just because of Mr. Péladeau that has chosen to buy the team, and we noticed that how passionate he was when he was introduced as the new owner, and I think that inspired a lot of people around the office. So to me, to have an opportunity to work with such an individual, there's only good things. There's only good things that's going to come through that relationship that we were able to establish here over the last little while. Just because I feel that we're aligned. I feel that we share the same vision, the same values, and I think that's going to be beneficial for us, whether it's short term or long term.
He comes with a clear passion for the team, as you mentioned. He's got deep pockets. Financially, that could be a benefit to the team. Could there be a scenario in the future where you see a new practice facility, or potentially even down the line stadium upgrades?
Possibly. I don't think that's going to happen here in the next little while. I think he's just trying to get lay of the land here. He's been the owner for the last couple of weeks, so obviously he's gonna depend on some of his people that he's gonna hire here, and just bring them some possible scenarios here in the next little while, as far as how can we get better, how can we get better on the field, but how can we get better off the field. And there's going to be so many different projects that we're probably going to bring to the table, and then it's for him to evaluate and decide where he wants to go with it. But if there's someone that can do it, if there's someone that's got a reputation for being proactive and a go-getter, it's Mr. Péladeau.
There's been a lot of talk around Mr. Péladeau with his attempt to bring an NHL franchise to Quebec City. The Videotron Center is beautiful. Do you think a CFL team could do well in Quebec City?
I think so. When you take a look at what they've done at the University of Laval, and I'm more than convinced that if they would ever choose to have a football team, and the CFL would ever choose to have a 10th franchise, Quebec City would be definitely at the top to be considered. And I can just imagine the rivalry, because I'm old enough to know the rivalry between the Canadians and the Nordiques, and I can just imagine the rivalry between Montreal and Quebec if that would ever come to fruition. But if that's an opportunity that presents itself, and it makes sense for Quebec City and it makes sense for the CFL, why not?
And that rivalry, Montreal against Laval.
Oh yeah, I know it quite well, and I know that every time we would play there, that was a hostile environment. You would have 16, 17, even 18,000 people, and they would be standing up around the track, and it was really a hostile environment. So I can just imagine what it would look like if they would ever have a CFL team.